I like shopping so much, I made a career out of it. If you're new here, I'm Tasha Julie and I'm an LA-based fashion stylist. Welcome to today's video. I thought we would do a rundown of all of the best places to shop in Los Angeles. And I've decided to curate this list in order from most unique to a little bit more standard and then everything in between. Bonus points for places to grab a coffee or a quick bite to eat if you are in the neighborhood. Also on this list, I'm going to include some skip-its or places that you may want to avoid that are a little bit overhyped, and I'll give you some ideas of where to go for a similar but better experience instead. So let's jump right into the list with my personal favorite category, the more unique shopping experiences. So throughout this video, I will try to put up little pieces of flair so you can kind of get a feel for the places that I'm talking about, as well as map and information, but in case you miss anything, everything will be linked in the description box below as well. I will try to include as much information as possible, including the place's Instagram and things like that, so you can do your research and plan your trip accordingly. I love when I go out and I see a piece that feels more one of a kind. It's something that maybe just really speaks to me and it's a little less mainstream. So for that reason, these first two stores at the top of my list for unique experiences, they're gonna be luxury consignment stores. And what it feels like when you go into these stores, you guys, it's like having a rich, stylish auntie that lets you go into her closet and pick out whatever you want. I mean, you have to pay for it at these stores, but it has that kind of a vibe. And because these pieces have come from other people's closets, they are a lot more unique in the way that it's not something that was sold today in all of the mainstream stores that a lot of people have and are wearing. So they feel a little more special, a little more unique, and I should actually tell you the name of both of these stores before I keep going on. So the first one's going to be the Real Real over in West Hollywood, and then the other one is called What Goes Around Comes Around, and it's over in Beverly Hills. But both of these stores have kind of an interchangeable feel. One of my favorite categories to shop in person at either of these stores is going to be sunglasses. Both of these stores do offer online access, but I really need to try on sunglasses in person. I think that everybody kind of does this. They have to suit my face, and you can never really tell from looking at a picture online like how big or how small they are, if they're going to suit your face shape. And then being pre-owned, it's nice to see them in person so you can get a really good feel for the condition. If they have any wear and tear on them, you can see that a lot better in person. So the luxury sunglasses are probably my favorite category to shop at either of these stores. And then any unique piece, whether it's clothing, handbag, shoes, they're all going to be a little bit more special because, like I mentioned, they are pre-owned. So these two stores are at the top of my list for anybody who prefers more unique finds. The next unique place that you can shop in LA only happens on Sunday because it's kind of a flea market type vibe. It is the Melrose Trading Post, and it's over in the Fairfax neighborhood. And like I said, only on Sundays. But this is another unique experience where you can go and find pretty much anything. So vintage t-shirts, jewelry, jeans, of course, same kind of idea with ebb and flow of the merchandise. Sometimes I go and I find a ton of stuff that I love. Sometimes I go and I don't find anything at all. But it's always kind of a fun, unique experience to go and see what they have. So if that's what you're into, you may want to check out the Melrose Trading Post on Sundays if you are around for that. If you happen to like unique shopping, there's probably also a pretty high chance that you happen to like vintage jeans. And one of the places that I love to go for vintage jeans is a store called the Hidden Rivet. So this is a fun little shop that's mostly known for their vintage Levi's, but they carry other brands as well. This is a really fun place to go in person and try on jeans because similar to the sunglasses category, I feel like jeans, you can never really tell online unless it's a brand that you know really well and you wear a lot of the time. It's hard to tell if jeans are going to fit you or kind of be a vibe if you're not trying them on in person. So the Hidden Rivet is a really fun spot to go and check out some of the vintage selection of jeans if you're in LA. And my final favorite store in LA for more unique shopping is a store called Boot Star, and as you might have guessed from the name of it, it is a Western boot store, and I really love this store because they are making their designs in-house, so they're not just reselling other brand name boots that you can buy at a variety of other stores. These are all designed in-house, so they're going to be much more unique and they have that kind of vintagey look. They do have a vintage collection, so if that's your vibe, but they also make new, so they're going to be more unique because they are made in-house, and they have kind of that Western but meets rock and roll. Their store's history does kind of tie into the 1970s rock vibe of like the Laurel Canyon, Los Angeles. So it is kind of a hybrid of like Western and like laid back 70s rock and roll. But if you're really into cowboy boots, unique things, you'll want to check out this store. And then bonus points, if you are over there and you want to grab something to eat, there is a restaurant called Salty Girl, which does not only amazing seafood, salad, sandwiches, types of things, but they have an in-house pastry chef. I think his handle is Sweet Boy. I'll link him on the screen. But he does all different types of kind of rotating seasonal desserts as well as some staples. But if you're nearby and you happen to go into Boot Star, you can also pop into Salty Girl for a bite to eat. And then a dishonorable mention goes to the Butcher Baker Cappuccino Maker, which is also near Boot Star. I would say this would be a skip it category. It is the quintessential LA Instagram breakfast brunch place. It has tons of people like crowding around the sidewalk. It's very overhyped in my opinion. The food is nothing to write home about. It's average, edible at best. And then just the crowds of people lead to kind of an annoying experience as well as kind of bad service just because they are so overcrowded, all for food that's just really nothing that special. So I would skip the Butcher Baker Cappuccino Maker and go to Salty Girl instead if you want to grab a bite to eat after you've browsed around Boot Star. All right, so I decided to call this category kind of the middle of the road because it's not going to be totally off the beaten path places or brands you've never heard of, but it's also not like ultra mainstream. So kind of the middle of the road. You might have heard of some of these brands or stores, but they're still going to be a little bit more unique either in the way of their merchandise or in the neighborhood store experience as well. So the top of my list is going to be Loewe. They are over in Beverly Hills off of Rodeo, where all of the usual suspects as far as the high-end LVMH and Kering Group stores are located. I realize that Loewe is LVMH, but I feel like they're a little bit more unique. And if you're not ultra familiar with Loewe, they are known for things like their puzzle bag or these kind of like kooky weird sunglasses that were not really my cup of tea, but a lot of people really liked them. So you've probably seen or heard about them because of these things. One of the things that Loewe makes that's on my personal radar that I am hoping to acquire this year is their bracelet bag. If you haven't seen it, I'll insert a pic. It's this sort of transformer-esque circular bag that is exactly what it sounds like. So you can wear it as a bracelet. It also has the availability of different straps that you can mix and match and just buy different pieces to go with that. I think it's kind of fun and unique because it's got this transformer ability to it. You can wear it as a bracelet or a shoulder bag. So I happen to be super into the Loewe bracelet bag. But the Beverly Hills store itself is also a really unique experience. They have a bust of Justin Bieber, so if that's your vibe, you could totally go and see that. But it's just kind of a fun, cool experience. I also happen to really like Loewe because, yeah, they're luxury or higher end, but they're a little bit more quiet. Their stuff isn't like logoed to death. So I also think it's a little bit more unique and a little bit more artistic. So if you do go to Loewe in Beverly Hills, bonus points if you want to grab something to eat. There's a ton of stuff nearby, but oftentimes it is either very crowded and or overrated. So if you want to sneak over and grab a bite to eat off the beaten path, if it is dinner time, because they're only open at night, you can get into the grill on the alley. And fun fact, I was watching, what's that Christmas movie with Kate Winslet? The Holiday, the early 2000s Christmas movie where Kate Winslet's character and Cameron Diaz switch homes from London to LA. So Kate Winslet comes to LA and stays at Cameron Diaz's house, and she goes to dinner, and she actually happens to go into the grill on the alley. So I was watching that scene and I was like, wait a minute, I know this place. So the grill on the alley, if you want kind of like a cozy off the beaten path, something for dinner, because like I said, they're only open at nighttime. But if you're over there during the day and you want to skip like the madhouse of like the Erewhon coffee bar and all of that, which can kind of be overrated, if you are in town from out of the area, it could be worth seeing, but I would generally kind of skip Erewhon because it's kind of busy. But if you happen to be over there during the daytime when the grill on the alley is not open and you want to get a quick bite to eat, or maybe just like sit down and have a little rest as well, you can pop over to Neiman Marcus. They have a place called the Bar on 4. Self-explanatory, pretty easy. So clearly on the 4th floor, and not only do they serve drinks because they're a bar, it's a little bit more of like a cafe type of a feel than a bar in my opinion. So it is open concept. You are on the center floor of the Neiman Marcus store, so that's kind of a fun experience. And then also you can get light bites, so salads, sandwiches, lobster rolls, and their famous popovers. If you've never had a Neiman Marcus restaurant popover, get one. So yeah, if you're over there during the day, Bar on 4. If it's at night and you want dinner, Grill on the Alley. So this next store has kind of a similar feel, in my opinion, to Loewe, in the way that it is a little bit more of like an elevated, basic, quiet luxury type of a store. And this is Toteme over in West Hollywood. So also slightly different neighborhood near Loewe, but not in Beverly Hills. So over in West Hollywood off of Melrose, you will find the recently opened Toteme store. They are Scandinavian based. And not only, like I said, is their merchandise something to behold, but the store itself is a pretty cool experience. So I think they've kind of curated this intentionally to make it just so for that kind of an experience. So the store itself, Art Deco, kind of museum-y meets modern. It's just kind of something you have to go and see in person, and then bonus points that you can see all of their beautiful clothes, bags. One of my favorite things to shop from Toteme is going to be their jeans. I know they're expensive, but they fit really well, and they make that twist seam pair that I actually highlighted in one of my videos. I think it was this one. But Toteme itself is another fun spot. And then if you do go over to this store over on Melrose, the Skip It, if you want to get something to eat, is going to be Great White across the street. So that's something you probably would be better off avoiding for a better experience. If you're over there during dinner time, you can pop into Craig's, which is just a few doors down, and you can grab a bite to eat there. And then day or night dining, a few more doors down, is a restaurant called Chiconi's. I know that they are a chain. They are owned by the same group that owns Soho House. So they are really good at consistency. I wouldn't say they're like overly like mind-blowingly unique, but their food is good. Their ambiance is a vibe, and they're open day or night. So Chiconi's is also someplace that I frequently go when I'm over there. But like I mentioned, Great White across the street from Toteme, it gets overcrowded. The food isn't that great. It's kind of overhyped. The one thing that I would say Great White is good for is just like a grab and go coffee. But other than that, I would skip it and either eat dinner at Craig's or go further down for brunch, lunch, dinner to Chiconi's. All right, and for extra bonus points, if you happen to be walking out of the Toteme store and you pop over to Byredo, which is fragrance, not clothing, I realize, but fragrance is probably my second like passion project. So if you wanted to pop over to Byredo, if you've ever seen their fragrances online and you've been curious to try them, a few of my favorites would be Desert Dawn and then also Blanche for everyday. But if you've ever seen their fragrances online and you're curious about them, Mojave Ghost is another good one. And then they also carry their cosmetics in the store. So if you've ever seen any of the Byredo makeup online, their packaging is really beautiful. But if you've been curious about like the color, the pigmentation, or the texture of their makeup, bonus points if you wanted to pop into Byredo while you're at Toteme. You can easily get there. It's only a few doors down, and I would say it's also worth a unique shopping experience if you happen to be in the area. So speaking of the Melrose area, I do unfortunately have a high-end Skip It in that area, and that is Melrose Place. So I think that LA, like a lot of places post-pandemic, has changed a lot. Melrose Place used to be a lot more vibrant, but as of lately, a lot of the stores have closed down. The restaurants have left the area. There's just kind of a different vibe post-pandemic in LA, and unfortunately, Melrose Place has been hit hard like several of the others, and I just don't think that it's really worth your time anymore because of the way that it's changed. They've got a Balmain. The Bottega Veneta over there they're nice stores, don't get me wrong. Also the Isabel Marant, Instagram famous for sure, but there's just not much over there anymore. It's kind of dead. There are 2 Alfred coffees, and like I said, a lot of the restaurants have closed down, and the really high-end stores like Balmain and Bottega Veneta feel a little bit out of place. and it's just kind of a ghost town. So for that reason, I would say that Melrose Place, sadly enough, is a skip it if you are here from out of town. All right, so I was really torn in including this next store or not, because if I'm being honest, it is something that I have been gatekeeping, not because of the store itself, but because the shopping center, it's called the Glen Center. It's a little bit more of a neighborhood, off the beaten path place. So, I mean, how secretive is anything these days with the use of the internet? But you guys know what I mean. So it's more of a neighborhood vibey place. Most of the people there are going to be all locals. And this store carries a multitude of different designers. It's a smaller, kind of modern, clean vibe. There's something about it that kind of reminded me of Kim Kardashian's house, the way it was like ultra minimal aesthetic. But you can get a variety of higher end designers. Being a smaller boutique, you can get a lot of one-on-one attention, so that's nice. It's not someplace that's so busy that there's no one that's available to help you. And one of the other cool things about this experience, or the shopping center in itself, is if you are here from out of town, it's going to be probably a place that you're more likely to have a celebrity sighting if that's your thing. It's not really mine, but I've lived in LA for a really long time. One of the first things that tourists do ask me is where they can see celebrities, and it's probably not where you might think, like Rodeo Drive, which it can happen. But this is an off the beaten path neighborhood, like up in the hills place. So if you are going to have a celebrity sighting, it is a lot more likely to happen up here. And while you are up in the Glen Center, there are other little coffee shops, restaurants. You can grab a bite to eat at any of them. They're all amazing. And then there's also a nighttime restaurant. It's called Vibrato. It is a jazz bar, and they do different, of course, jazz musicians during different nights of the week. You can find their information on their website as well, but that's a fun spot if you happen to be up there after 6 p.m. during the day. Grab a bite at any of the other coffee shops. I think there's a place called the Glen Center Deli, and they've got Sandoz, brunch. It's a good spot as well. And then last up, for sort of the middle of the road stores, things you might have heard of, but they're not like extremely mainstream, is a store called Intermix. So if you're thinking in terms of like Eula Johnson, Zimmerman, Alexis, that type of a thing, it is a smaller boutique. It's located over back in Beverly Hills. And the reason I like this store is that it is also slightly smaller, so you can get that one-on-one attention, and you've got access to slightly more unique pieces. And if you are a local, this is a great store to go to if you find yourself in a pinch. So perhaps you've got a last minute event and what you wanted to wear didn't work out, or you need something new and you just didn't have time to order it online. Pop over to Intermix in Beverly Hills. They've got a lot of more event wear, so like dresses and that type of thing, as well as just everyday basics, jeans and that type of thing as well. So Intermix is always a fun experience. I feel like whoever does their buying and their curation does a really nice job. They carry a lot of like vibrant, more unique prints, silk, fun colors, and things like that as well. So I always have a good time whenever I go into Intermix. So I decided to put this next store in the middle of the road category. The shopping center itself is a little bit more of a unique, off the beaten path, bougie, local, kind of a neighborhood vibe like the Glen Center. But the store itself is Sezane, and it belongs in the middle of the road category. It's something that I think most of us have heard of, but it's not like ultra like common, nor is it like something that no one's ever heard of. So middle of the road for Sezane, and a bougier, local kind of hidden gem for the shopping center experience. So let's talk about Sezane first. It is a Parisian-based brand. I think a lot of us have probably seen or heard of it. I would describe it as elevated basics, so think in terms of dresses, cardigans, tops, that type of thing. But they are also known to be a little bit more kitschy, kind of cute, more of a fun pattern, print, that kind of thing, but still an elevated basic in my opinion. And the Sezane stores that I've seen in Paris are incredibly crowded. The few that I've passed by literally had a line out the door. I've never seen this situation at our Sezane, which is located in the Brentwood Country Mart. There is a Brentwood in Northern California. Don't confuse that with Brentwood, Los Angeles. So the Brentwood Country Mart is where the Sezane is in Los Angeles. So that also makes for a fun experience. Not only is the boutique great, the shopping is really fun. You can find some really cute of the moment pieces, but bonus points if you want to pop into the rest of the Brentwood Country Mart, maybe hit up Farm Shop for lunch or brunch. There's also an ice cream store in there, you guys. It's called Sweet Rose Creamery. It is also pretty good. And yeah, so that's another fun like neighborhood gem, also a place that you might have a celebrity sighting. I recently was backing out of the parking lot and made eye contact with somebody who was coming in, and it was Connie Britton. So definitely a possibility to have a celebrity sighting. If you're here from out of town and that is something that you want to experience, you might have that at the Brentwood Country Mart. One of the things that I think is a little bit weird is how the experience of the same company or brand store can really vary like so drastically from location to location. And so that is why I'm rounding out this list with the standard or the usual suspect type stores. We've got a lot of really big malls here in LA, but some of them are better than others, even though the combination of stores is going to be pretty kind of like straight across the board, very, very similar. But I wanted to give you the most bang for your buck and tell you where to find these kind of standard stores that we're all familiar with that are going to give you the best experience as opposed to kind of a subpar experience. So I would say if you are looking for the usual suspects as far as like mall type of stores where you're going to have the best experience, go to the Westfield in Century City. I would say skip the Grove. I know that it's all over social media and everybody talks about it like it's Europe. It is pretty. There's a fountain. It's kind of a vibe, but on the downside, it gets very, very crowded. The stores are also a little bit on the smaller side. They are overly busy. They can get messy. And then staff is also kind of overwhelmed, so it's hard to get assistance from a salesperson. So for those reasons, I would say to skip places like the Grove. I'm also going to throw the 3rd Street Promenade in Santa Monica under the bus. Same situation there, especially if you are coming here from out of town and you are not used to like an unsheltered environment. There are a ton of unsheltered people in Santa Monica, the 3rd Street Promenade. It's really gotten out of control, and if you are from outside of the United States, you might suffer a little bit of culture shock from that, and it's best just to avoid it because it's kind of not really the best experience. So I will guide you toward the Century City Westfield Mall instead. For all of the usual suspect type of stores, they've got a multi-level Nordstrom. It's quite large, it's well maintained. All of their staff there is very, very helpful. They have an amazing salon shoe department, so like the nicer designer label shoes if you're into that. Very well maintained at the Century City Nordstrom. A couple of other stores that you might want to pay attention to if you are in the shopping center are going to be Aritzia, which you might be familiar with them. They do kind of elevated basics, so jeans, t-shirts, that type of thing, but also a very well curated store, great staff, large and abundant selection. So that's going to be one of your better experiences as far as a mainstream store. Even the H&M in the Westfield Century City, it is quite large. It's 2, maybe 3 stories, I don't remember, but also same idea, well maintained, and also a lot more than you would find in some of their smaller stores. I know it's not closed, but I would also hit up the Sephora in the Westfield Century City. It is one of the larger Sephoras in the area. The one at the Grove is also quite large, but it is so crowded. Every time I go in there, I feel like I'm going to have a panic attack, and I can't ever get anyone to help me if I need assistance with something or have a question. I find that that's usually not the case at the Sephora in Century City. It's kind of a better experience, and they carry all of the brands. I really hate when I go into a Sephora and they don't carry certain brands and they're like, oh, we don't have that one here. And that's just kind of also a weird experience. So for that reason, I would say hit up the Sephora in Century City as well. That is a great store. And with that being said, that's everything on my list as far as my favorite places to shop. Also to grab a snack in some of the places if you are nearby at any of these stores so that you can have a fun experience in LA. Like I said, LA is a giant city, so if I've missed something that is your favorite, I'm so sorry. Do let me know in the comments. Share it with the rest of us. We try not to gatekeep over here for the most part. So with that said, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys again soon.